What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? I got another one for us here that I already am in, so I'm kind of showing this a little bit late, but it's really not that late if you actually look at this chart. This is LGG Super League Gaming, and basically I'm gonna go through a few things here in this 15 minutes that I have with you, and show you my idea and what's going on here. This is gonna be a swing trade that you know, we might still get another chance to buy it a little lower. We'll have to see. I mean, it's pretty cheap as it is. But I'm going to go through a couple things and show you my ideas and why I entered where I did and where you could potentially enter if you were interested in this and what to look out for. So, basically looking at this, we can see obviously how crazy of a downturn this thing ended up being. But there's a pretty solid explanation for where this thing could potentially bottomed out and why if we literally just do that. And this is why previous price action, sometimes can help us to find a nice bottom or a nice resistance point. So, where this bottomed out right now and the reason that I took the trade that I did, besides the fact that this here was previous consolidation, we came all the way back and pretty much tapped that almost perfectly. And, also, if we look in the daily, we're just starting to get some buying. And this other yellow line I drew here is basically where we can see that once we break and close above, we have some pretty good price action. And that's pretty much where we wicked up to right now. Now, of course, you can see that we've had 3 daily green candles in a row and then rejected, 3 daily candles in a row, rejection, and we've just been continuing on this downtrend here. So what's to say that this isn't going to just continue and do the same thing? It's very possible that it does, and there's no guarantees, and that's the thing about trading. But what we can do is we can find the best possible scenarios and resistance points that could potentially guide us in our direction that we want to see this thing potentially go. So, right now, if we were to draw something like this, we could probably say that this here is our downtrending resistance. This is our downtrending support. And we broke down from this wick to this lower support. We bought back up, and we're kind of basically recontrolling this area here. And if we were to come all the way back up, our upper resistance is up at $3.06. And if we were to look even closer in here on the daily, we can find our next area, which to me is pretty clear. If we were to just take this wick and those 2 wicks there and draw something like this, we can see that we recently broke this downtrending resistance that every time we tap this, we went on a run down to the lower support, came back up, tapped it again, lower support, tapped it again, lower support, broke it. Right, and that was right around 203. I entered at 206, and I'm going to show you why in a second. So that was our first thing that we can see here. Now, of course, if we were to look down here at the RSI, we can see that currently on this daily RSI, we do have bearish divergence. Now, this happens a lot in the downtrend. You get these bearish divergence, and it usually sends the price down pretty far and pretty fast when you're in a downtrend. And when you're in an uptrend, bearish divergence doesn't hurt you as much, but it can still pull you back pretty far. And bullish divergence is the opposite. In a downtrend, it usually isn't that strong and it doesn't do too much. And we did have some bullish divergence here as price remained in roughly the same spot, if not dipped a little bit lower here based off of the candle bodies, not the wicks. And we can see that price action didn't go down as far here, where it actually dipped lower here. So that was the bullish divergence right there. Basing it off of that, that was a nice buy signal. But that's not even what I looked at here. I honestly, this is the first time actually coming out to the daily and really taking a look. But what I was interested in here was this potential double bottom right here. And at the time, I'm just going to clear all these drawings. At the time here, this was all I had to go off of. I zoomed in on an hourly and I was like, this thing looks like a very, very clear W in my opinion, right? This is where the price action was roughly sitting right before I entered my trade. It was right here. So, the first thing that I did was I said, well, where's the neckline of this W? And the neckline's usually at the middle. You want to go to that highest point and draw a straight line across, right? So this right here was where price action was during the time of, we were actually sitting right about here, just starting to break up. So I was like, all right, let me give it a little bit of time, see if we can get a candle body above. We got rejected here. And then we ended up popping up through this point. And during this candle, I was like, you know what? We had a nice big move. We even came back down to this 206 point. We had some price action in between. If we go down to the 5-minute and stuff, you could obviously see how that candle, everything happens within the hour. But we could see that we had some price action going down here. So I was basically right in this candle right here, or in somewhere in between here and here. But that being said, what is going to be a confirmation of a W reversal is you have your double bottom, and you have your double bottom, right? Resistance, breakthrough resistance, and then your pullback to test that as support. Now, of course, we didn't come down that low, so we could potentially get rejected here, and maybe we'll make another double bottom right here. That would be something to look into. There's no guarantees or anything, but I will say that holding this area right here is definitely a bullish sign. Finally, now we have had other double bottoms here, right? We've had this double bottom right here, and it ended up just rolling over. So that's something to watch, because see, look, this was a back test, a fail. So this is going to be the next basically area to watch, which would be right here, to really confirm if this is going to play out. And that would be if we have price action the same similar way and we fail and roll down. Obviously that's a fail. If we, whether we come back, roll back, hold this, we'll have the same exact similar thing, and we'd play the breakout confirmation of this potentially. And then it'll pretty much show us that we're good. I mean, that's one way to do it. Obviously, we can also enter, try to find a nice entry somewhere down in these ranges, and then just place our stop loss below this neckline. I mean, honestly, if you fail any of this neckline support, then it's pretty much going to be a failed attempt, in my opinion, anyway. But like I said, I'm in at 206, and I'm just kind of holding my position here. So, the next thing that we can see here is if we look at these wicks right in this range, this is our next area, roughly, that we need to keep an eye on. And we can bring it down to these candle bodies right here. This actually shows a little bit more. This is on an hourly again. This shows a little bit more here that we came down, we wicked, we tried to confirm this area as support. A couple times we failed, and then eventually we back tested it as resistance and continued down. And now in reverse here, we came up, we wicked a few above, and we're attempting to push above this 217 and close above. So if we looked over here on the hourly, we can see that this candle tried to close above, but the following candle ended up just being red. Same with over here. We had this candle that closed above, and then the following candles just continued to be red. So what we'd want to see is, we'd want to see a candle break up, close above, and then we want to see another candle close above. And if we get that, then this following candle most likely is going to continue on this uptrend here. So if we were going to look at some targets here, I mean, we could just go in here and zoom out and say, hey, how high did this thing go before? Oh, it went to $12. So let's long it up to $12. But, to me, is that a possibility? It's sure it is. But, want to take this a little, day by day and find maybe some earlier resistances that could give us some trouble along the way. I mean, I'm just trying to look at the chart here, and I mean, something that's pretty clear to me here is this double bottom that ripped up. I mean, this was some clear resistance, obviously, in this range. Anywhere in this range here, we can see we came down and used it as support. Right here, we used it as support here. If we look over, we had multiple wicks above. I mean, that's going to be something of confluence up in the $3.91 range. And then also, it's probably somewhere in this range here. And if we just put a line right there straight across, you can see this was a double bottom right there. If we zoom it all the way across, it came in confluence pretty much through this whole trend here. That's something to keep our mind on. But to be honest, I never really saw it become too much resistance. We got a rejection here, a pullback, but then we just ripped on through, right? So this thing is going to be volatile. That's just really what it's showing me here by all these crazy wicks. So that's why this is something good to plan your entry, plan your exit, so on and so forth. But like I said, the first thing I'm going to be watching for is that 309, and that's going to be, and maybe, let me see, what was it? Well, $3 to 309. That's going to be pretty critical, if you ask me, because we can see what happens when we tap this upper line. We get a strong rejection most of the time. So if we could get confirmed support above somewhere up in this range, then we can definitely look for something a lot crazier. But for right now, I mean, this is looking like a pretty decent setup if everything continues to hold structure like it looks like it is. And if so, we'll be very, very early on this. And it could move really slow. I'm not even sure. I've never even looked at this thing in my life until I just happened to be scrolling through a few charts, and somehow I came across this and saw this clear W, and I was like, all right, I'm going to play this W breakout. And it has worked out very nicely. So, I mean, like I've talked about in other videos, if you wanted to check on a W breakout, you literally just find the W and you measure in between from the point, even from the highest point of that W to the lowest point, whatever, right in between here. And then you bring this up to the neckline and it shows you your targeted move like that. And this is basically the expected move right here. So 234. So we're already halfway there. And it could obviously continue up higher. I mean, if this is going to actually be a trend reversal here, as we can see, the market's doing pretty well. I mean, even attaching those two wicks there. I mean, I usually like to have three, but we can kind of see right now that if that's the case, we are potentially holding support right there. So, this 213 level could come in pretty handy. But mainly we want to see ourselves break and hold above that 217 area. And, this is just something small that I'm kind of looking for. It's a cheaper play here as far as, price. I mean, we could even pull this across like this. Actually, that would be a smarter thing. That's the way. So forget what I had said prior. This is probably what you want to do is, I mean, yeah, if you line those wicks up, that's what I'm getting. But I would say, no, take that back. That is what I did. This is pretty much, I'm just doing this on the fly, so stick with me on that. Well, anyway, this doesn't matter too much, in my opinion, because we can see clear resistance that turned into support, or that could turn into support, and that's sitting at 206 exactly. And then we have this clear resistance at 217. So wherever this downtrending line is, it really doesn't matter too much. But yeah, so basically with this, I mean, like I said, it's not going to be the craziest moving stock to start, but this could be potentially a sign of a bottom. A W formation would be a great trend reversal and a great sign, and we can see that clearly over in these ranges. We had a W bottom right here. It took a little bit of time, and eventually it turned out into this. We had another W right here, another W right here, so on and so forth. Another double bottom here, and all of these can, for the most part, ended up being higher lows here, or they never wicked below the lower section. So if we actually were to be getting in at this first initial potential double bottom here, we could be looking at, this being a pretty damn good entry if this for a long swing, if this thing is going to continue reversing here, depending on, how it plays out here. If it ends up, doing something of the sort where, we end up with multiple double bottoms here on the way up here, obviously I'm just freehand drawing, but, this is the perfect entry point in my view. And you just stop loss it below the low of the move, or you can stop loss it below, say somewhere below this neckline here, which is roughly right about there, because if we started losing $2, then this is going to be a failed rally. I mean, we could come back potentially and double bottom on that, but it's tough to say exactly right now. This looks like a nice bullish setup here to continuation to the upside. So anyways, this is CLGG, and that's all I got for you. Peace.